Before the headlines, Laci was a young woman brimming with life. Her infectious smile could light up a room. Born and raised in California, Laci possessed a warmth that drew people to her. Friends and family speak of her unwavering kindness. This is the story of Laci Peterson, a life tragically cut short. Modesto, California is a city known for its agricultural roots and quiet charm. It was here that Laci Rocha's story began. Growing up in a loving family, Laci embraced the small-town values of community. She attended Grace M. Davis High School, known for her infectious smile. At Cal Poly, Laci's path crossed with Scott Peterson's, forever altering their lives. Scott Peterson caught Laci's eye at a local restaurant. Their connection was instant and intense. Scott proposed to Laci at Morro Bay, and she said yes. In 1997, they exchanged vows in a beautiful ceremony. They built a life together in Modesto, their home a testament to their dreams. Laci believed in their future together, filled with promise. Laci and Scott Peterson seemed to have it all. They built a beautiful life in Modesto, epitomizing the all-American couple. Scott's job as a fertilizer salesman provided a comfortable life. Laci poured her heart into making their house a home. They were active in their community, their presence welcomed. But behind the facade, a darkness lurked. Laci's greatest dream was about to come true. In 2002, she and Scott announced they were expecting their first child. Laci was over the moon, meticulously decorating the nursery. They decided to name their son Connor. Scott seemed excited about fatherhood, often rubbing Laci's belly. The future seemed bright, filled with promise, but fate had other plans. The early years of Laci and Scott's relationship were marked by a whirlwind romance. They were young, deeply in love, and eager to build a life together. Friends and family recall their infectious laughter and undeniable chemistry. They enjoyed exploring the outdoors and attending local events. Life seemed idyllic, their love a beacon of hope. Their future seemed full of promise and possibility. After their wedding, Laci and Scott settled into a routine in Modesto. Laci dreamed of being a mother, while Scott secured a job as a fertilizer salesman. They purchased a charming bungalow, a testament to their dreams. Laci transformed their house into a cozy haven. Their home became a gathering place for friends and family. They were building a life together, their love the mortar that held it all. Subtle cracks began to appear in Laci and Scott's marriage. The once frequent laughter was replaced by strained silence. Friends and family noticed a shift in their dynamic. Laci seemed withdrawn, her vibrant energy replaced by melancholy. Scott appeared increasingly distant, his mind preoccupied. Despite the tension, they maintained a united front in public. The financial strain on Laci and Scott's marriage continued to escalate. Scott's income was not keeping pace with their lifestyle. Laci expressed a desire to return to work, but Scott resisted. This difference in opinion created significant tension. Arguments over money became more frequent. Their dreams of a bright future slowly faded. Whispers and rumors began to circulate among their friends and family. Laci seemed withdrawn, her zest for life replaced by sadness. Scott appeared increasingly distant and detached. Rumors of infidelity began to surface. Laci clung to the hope that their love would conquer all. The idea that their marriage could be crumbling became a haunting possibility. The growing distance between Laci and Scott became increasingly apparent. Laci poured her energy into preparing for their son, Connor. Scott seemed detached from the impending arrival of their child. Conversations became strained, their silences speaking volumes. The distance between them grew into a chasm. Their dreams of a happy future were fading. Unbeknownst to Laci, Scott Peterson was living a double life. Laci stumbled upon incriminating emails and phone records. The evidence of Scott's infidelity was irrefutable. The discovery shattered Laci's world. Despite the hurt, Laci clung to the hope of salvaging their marriage. She was carrying his child, a constant reminder of their shared dreams. The other woman was Amber Frey, a young massage therapist. Scott presented himself to Amber as a single man. He showered her with attention and gifts, concealing the truth. Amber fell deeply in love, believing his promises. She had no reason to doubt his sincerity. As Scott's affair intensified, his charade became difficult to maintain. The web of deceit was about to unravel. Scott Peterson's affair with Amber Frey continued. His web of lies grew complex and difficult to maintain. He became a master of deception, juggling his two lives with calculated precision. To Laci, he played the devoted husband, feigning excitement about their son, Connor. He attended appointments, rubbed her belly, whispered love, hiding his infidelity. To Amber, he was the charming bachelor, eager to settle down. He showered her with attention, concealing the truth about his wife. Scott's facade was destined to crumble under the weight of his lies. Scott Peterson's deception extended beyond his affair with Amber Frey. As investigators would later discover, he had meticulously crafted a false narrative to conceal his involvement in Laci's disappearance, a chilling testament to his cold and calculating nature. In the days leading up to Laci's disappearance, Scott had gone to great lengths to create the illusion that he was a loving and concerned husband. He had accompanied Laci to doctor's appointments, helped her decorate the nursery, and even feigned excitement about the upcoming birth of their son. However, behind this facade of normalcy, Scott was orchestrating a sinister plan. He had researched boat rentals, tidal patterns in the San Francisco Bay, and even looked into selling his house, all while maintaining the charade of a grieving husband desperately searching for his missing wife. His actions were those of a cold and calculating individual, a man who was willing to go to any lengths to cover his tracks and escape the consequences of his actions. His carefully constructed facade, designed to mislead those closest to him, would ultimately crumble under the weight of his own deception. As the search for Laci Peterson intensified, red flags in Scott's behavior raised suspicions. His detached demeanor seemed at odds with the expected grief. Scott's alibi of a solo fishing trip raised eyebrows. His casual demeanor during questioning struck a discordant note. Scott's behavior did little to quell suspicions. The red flags were mounting. Scott was the prime suspect. Scott Peterson's mask of normalcy began to slip, revealing glimpses of the cold and calculating individual beneath. His narrative crumbled under the weight of his own lies and inconsistencies. In public appearances, Scott maintained a veneer of composure, but his words failed to mask the coldness in his eyes. His lack of genuine emotion struck a discordant note with observers. The mask was slipping, revealing the true nature of the man behind the lies. Christmas Eve 2002. A day etched in infamy, forever linked to the disappearance of Laci Peterson. The festive spirit in Modesto, California stood in stark contrast to the sinister events that were about to unfold. As families gathered to celebrate, a dark cloud descended upon the Peterson household. Laci Peterson, 8 months pregnant, had planned a day of last-minute errands. She was excited to welcome their son, Connor, into the world. Scott had his own plans for the day. He told Laci he was going fishing at the Berkeley Marina. He packed his gear and kissed his pregnant wife goodbye. As the sun rose over Modesto, no one could have predicted the nightmare ahead. Christmas Eve 2002 marked the beginning of a mystery that would captivate the nation. The day began ordinarily enough. Laci, her spirits high despite the chilly December air, spoke with her mother, Sharon Rocha, on the phone, discussing their plans for Christmas Day. They chatted excitedly about baby gifts, holiday recipes, and the joy of welcoming a new life into their family. Laci mentioned she was about to walk their dog, Mackenzie, a golden retriever she adored. It was a routine activity, one she often did in the neighborhood park near their home. Little did she know, this seemingly mundane walk would be her last. Meanwhile, Scott was miles away at the Berkeley Marina, or so he claimed. He would later tell investigators that he spent the day fishing, enjoying the solitude of the open water. However, inconsistencies in his timeline and a lack of physical evidence to support his alibi would soon cast doubt on his version of events. As the hours passed, a sense of unease began to creep in. Laci, typically prompt in her communication with family and friends, had gone silent. Her phone calls went unanswered, her cheerful texts replaced by an eerie silence. The day that had begun with such promise was slowly unraveling, each passing moment deepening the mystery of Laci Peterson's whereabouts. Laci's last known steps were pieced together through a combination of witness accounts and circumstantial evidence. A neighbor reported seeing her walking Mackenzie near the park around 9:30 that morning. Another neighbor recalled seeing Mackenzie wandering alone, her leash still attached, later that afternoon. The discovery of Mackenzie, alone and disoriented, raised the first red flag. Laci, a devoted pet owner, would never leave her beloved dog unattended. Concerns mounted as the day wore on, and Laci remained unreachable. Scott returned home from his supposed fishing trip late that evening to find an empty house. The Christmas lights twinkled cheerfully, casting an eerie glow on the otherwise silent home. There was no sign of Laci, no trace of her whereabouts. The only indication that something was amiss was the presence of their dog, Mackenzie, who greeted him at the door, her tail wagging, but her demeanor unusually subdued. The unsettling scene that greeted Scott did little to ease the growing sense of dread that had begun to grip those closest to Laci. Her disappearance was a chilling mystery, made all the more unsettling by the lack of any obvious explanation. Scott Peterson's reaction to finding Laci missing was puzzling and unsettling. Instead of calling the police, he contacted his mother-in-law and friends. It wasn't until later that evening that Scott contacted the Modesto Police Department. The delay struck many as odd, given the circumstances. A pregnant woman, due to give birth in weeks, had vanished. Her car was parked, her belongings inside, with no sign of struggle. Scott appeared calm and detached when questioned by police. He detailed his fishing trip but lacked specifics. The chilling phone call marked a pivotal point in the investigation. It cast a long shadow over Scott and raised haunting questions. News of Laci Peterson's disappearance spread like wildfire through Modesto. The festive spirit of Christmas Eve was replaced by dread and disbelief. Volunteers distributed flyers and searched parks, fields, and waterways. Laci's smiling face became a symbol of hope. As days turned into weeks, the search yielded no answers. Shock turned to concern and suspicion. The circumstances were baffling. Investigators grasped at straws. The Peterson and Rocha families made emotional pleas. The case garnered national media attention. The mystery captivated the nation. In the early days following Laci's disappearance, Scott Peterson stood before a throng of reporters, the weight of the world on his shoulders. Cameras flashed, capturing every flicker of emotion, every twitch of his jaw. He was the husband of a missing, pregnant woman, a man thrust into a nightmare, or so it seemed. "This is a nightmare," he declared, his voice raspy, his eyes red-rimmed. "I need her back. I need Laci to come home." The words hung in the air, a desperate plea for the safe return of his wife. Yet, even as Scott spoke, a disquieting feeling lingered in the air. His demeanor lacked the raw, visceral emotion one might expect. There was a detachment in his eyes, a coldness that chilled those who looked closely. Behind the facade of a grieving husband, a darker truth was emerging. Scott's behavior painted a picture at odds with the image he tried to project. Investigators became convinced he was not a victim, but a master manipulator. A man hiding a dark secret that would soon send shockwaves through the nation. 4 months, 134 agonizing days. For Laci's family, each day was a torment, a relentless cycle of hope and despair. On April 13, 2003, a couple walking their dog made a gruesome discovery. A decomposed body, barely recognizable, washed ashore. The news spread like wildfire, a collective gasp of horror rippling through the nation. Dental records confirmed the worst fears. The body was that of Laci Peterson. The news sent shockwaves through Modesto and beyond. The unbearable weight of grief descended upon Laci's family, a crushing blow that left them reeling. Sharon Rocha, Laci's mother, had been the driving force behind the search efforts. Now, faced with the devastating confirmation of her daughter's death, her world crumbled. Losing both a daughter and a grandchild was almost too much to bear. Friends and family rallied around the Rochas, offering words of comfort and support. The discovery of Laci and Connor's remains sent shockwaves across the nation. The case captivated the American public, the missing pregnant woman, the seemingly perfect husband. Hearts heavy with sorrow, the nation watched as the story took its darkest turn. Television screens were dominated by images of Laci, her radiant smile contrasting the grim details. The public felt a profound sense of loss, as if they had known Laci personally. As the nation mourned the loss of Laci and Connor, the focus of the investigation shifted squarely onto Scott Peterson. The discovery of the bodies, so close to where he claimed to have been fishing, painted a damning picture. The carefully constructed facade Scott had maintained for months began to crumble, the walls of deception closing in around him. No longer the concerned husband desperately seeking his missing wife, Scott was now the prime suspect in a double homicide investigation. His behavior, once perceived by some as merely odd or detached, now appeared cold, calculating, and deeply suspicious. Investigators meticulously retraced Scott's steps, uncovering a trail of lies and deceit that stretched back months before Laci's disappearance. His affair with Amber Frey, his clandestine phone calls, his internet searches for information on tidal patterns and cement weights. Every new revelation chipped away at his carefully crafted facade, exposing the heart of a killer. The net was closing in, the weight of evidence mounting with each passing day. Scott Peterson, the man who had so convincingly played the role of a grieving husband, was about to have his lies exposed on a national stage. The truth, however horrific, was about to be revealed, and the world was watching. The quaint streets of Modesto, California were now shrouded in a chilling unease. The disappearance of Laci Peterson sent shockwaves through the city, leaving residents grappling with fear and disbelief. The wheels of justice began to turn, slowly but surely. On April 18, 2003, Scott Peterson was apprehended at a golf course in San Diego. He had dyed his hair blonde, grown a goatee, and was carrying a significant amount of cash. He was a man on the run, desperate to escape. The arrest brought a sense of relief, but it did little to ease the pain. The road to justice would be long and arduous, fraught with emotional testimony and damning evidence. The courtroom became a stage, the trial a captivating drama that unfolded day after day, week after week. Millions tuned in to live television coverage, their living rooms transformed into front-row seats to one of the most sensational murder trials in American history. Cameras, though barred from the courtroom itself, captured every arrival, every departure, every whispered exchange between attorneys and their clients. Legal analysts dissected every piece of evidence, every witness testimony, every strategic move by both the prosecution and the defense. The public, hungry for every detail, devoured it all. Newspapers ran daily updates, magazines published in-depth analyses, and water cooler conversations across the country centered around the latest revelations from the trial. The trial of Scott Peterson had become a national obsession, a shared experience that transcended geographical boundaries and brought the American legal system, with all its complexities and flaws, into sharp focus. As the trial progressed, the nation watched, captivated and horrified in equal measure, as the prosecution methodically built their case, piece by piece, against the man they believed to be responsible for the heinous murders of Laci and Connor Peterson. At the heart of the trial was a clash of narratives, two starkly different versions of events. The prosecution, led by Rick DiStasso, presented Scott as a cold, calculating killer, a man driven by selfishness and a desire to escape his marriage. DiStasso laid out a timeline of Scott's actions, highlighting inconsistencies and suspicious internet searches. He argued that Scott had meticulously planned Laci's murder. The defense, led by Mark Garagos, countered with a narrative of a flawed investigation. They portrayed Scott as a flawed but ultimately innocent man, a victim of circumstance and a media frenzy. Garagos sought to discredit the prosecution's case, challenging witness testimonies and forensic evidence. The courtroom became a battleground of words, a chess match of legal maneuvering. The outcome would hinge on which story the jury found more believable. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, both circumstantial and forensic, that chipped away at Scott Peterson's carefully constructed facade. The discovery of Laci and Connor's remains near Scott's fishing spot was pivotal. The odds of it being a coincidence were astronomical. Scott's internet searches suggested a chilling premeditation. Evidence of Scott's affair with Amber Frey and his lies added to the case. The prosecution argued Scott murdered his wife and unborn child out of selfishness. Throughout the trial, Sharon Rocha sat stoically in the courtroom, her unwavering gaze fixed on the man accused of taking her daughter and grandson from her. Her strength in the face of such unimaginable grief was both awe-inspiring and heartbreaking. She had become the voice for Laci and Connor, a mother determined to ensure that justice was served. From the witness stand, Sharon delivered a victim impact statement that left the courtroom in stunned silence. Her voice, raw with emotion yet unwavering in its conviction, conveyed the depth of her loss and the enduring power of a mother's love. "Scott," she addressed him directly, her voice trembling with contained fury, "you betrayed Laci and Connor. You took their lives, and for that, you will have to answer." Her words, imbued with the weight of a mother's grief and the righteous anger of a nation, resonated far beyond the walls of the courtroom. Sharon Rocha's strength and resilience in the face of such unimaginable tragedy became a source of inspiration for people across the country. She channeled her grief into a relentless pursuit of justice, her unwavering determination a testament to the enduring power of a mother's love. After weeks of testimony and media frenzy, the jury deliberated for 6 days. On November 12, 2004, the jury delivered their verdict: guilty. The courtroom erupted in gasps and sobs. For Laci and Connor, it was a bittersweet victory. In the aftermath of the verdict, as the media circus moved on, Sharon Rocha remained, her strength a beacon of hope. She had endured every parent's worst nightmare, yet her spirit never wavered. She channeled her grief into justice, her voice never faltering. She became a fierce advocate for victims' rights, a tragic reminder of domestic violence's impact. The guilty verdict brought closure, but not healing. The pain of their absence remained, a constant ache in Sharon's heart. But she kept her promise, her fight for justice unwavering, her love for Laci and Connor unbreakable. Sharon Rocha's strength, her pursuit of truth, and her refusal to let their memories fade inspire us all. Laci Peterson's radiant smile, frozen in time on countless missing person posters, became a haunting reminder of a life tragically cut short. The vibrant young woman, full of life and love, her unborn son Connor nestled safely in her womb. Their story, forever intertwined with betrayal and loss, became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. Yet, even in the shadow of such unimaginable tragedy, Laci and Connor's legacy lived on, their memory a beacon of hope and a catalyst for change. The outpouring of grief and support from a nation touched by their story transcended geographical boundaries, reflecting a shared sense of loss and a collective determination to honor their memory. In Modesto, where Laci had grown up and built a life with Scott, a memorial garden stands as a testament to the enduring power of love and remembrance. It is a place where family and friends can gather to share stories, to find solace in shared grief, and to celebrate the lives that were so cruelly cut short. Beyond Modesto, Laci and Connor's story continue to resonate, their names synonymous with the fight against domestic violence, the vulnerability of expectant mothers, and the importance of recognizing the warning signs of abuse. The brutal murder of Laci Peterson and her unborn son, Connor, ignited a debate about the rights of pregnant women and unborn children. Sharon Rocha, Laci's mother, became a powerful advocate, channeling her grief into a pursuit of justice. The Unborn Victims of Violence Act, signed by President George W. Bush, made it a federal crime to harm an unborn child during a violent crime. The passage of Laci and Connor's law marked a significant victory for recognizing unborn children as victims of violence. The Laci Peterson case, with its potent mix of love, betrayal, and unimaginable loss, transcended the boundaries of a typical murder trial, becoming a cultural touchstone that sparked a national conversation about a range of complex and often uncomfortable issues. The case forced Americans to confront the realities of domestic violence, the vulnerability of pregnant women, and the often hidden signs of abuse. It highlighted the complexities of marital relationships, the devastating consequences of infidelity, and the dark side of the American dream. The media frenzy surrounding the case, with its relentless coverage and often sensationalized reporting, raised questions about the role of the press in shaping public opinion, the ethics of trial coverage, and the impact of intense media scrutiny on the criminal justice system. The Laci Peterson case, with its enduring legacy of heartbreak and hope, left an indelible mark on the American psyche, prompting a national conversation about the importance of protecting the vulnerable, holding perpetrators accountable, and seeking justice for victims of violence. Scott Peterson's conviction reignited the death penalty debate, with passionate arguments on both sides. Some saw the death penalty as just retribution and a deterrent. Others viewed it as barbaric and inhumane, advocating for life without parole. The debate continues, reflecting a larger national conversation. Years have passed since the trial of Scott Peterson. The media frenzy has subsided. Yet, for Sharon Rocha, the pain of losing her daughter and unborn grandson remains. But Sharon Rocha is a survivor. She has found a way to honor Laci and Connor's memory. She has become a tireless advocate for victims' rights. Sharon's strength and her refusal to let Laci and Connor's memories fade have been an inspiration. She has shown that even in the darkest of times, love can transcend death. The story of Laci Peterson is a testament to the enduring power of a mother's love. It is a story that will continue to resonate for years to come.